Here we are. Where are all my friends? Sitting down with Danny Kurily. And this is a cool one because we've known each other for some time,
Yeah, like,
but we've also lived pretty separate lives.
yeah,
Like it hasn't, like we'll see each other and it's always like, dude, what's up? What's good? But it's not like a deep level of like, I don't know so many pieces of your story. And I intentionally like didn't want to dig too, like we have a lot of mutual
Yeah.
friends and I didn't want to dig too deep because I wanted to hear it organically.
I know like the beginning of you, and then I know like what you're kind of doing now.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything else is a bit of a blur.
Yeah, because the last time you saw it, like there was a time where I was touring with Set It Off.
Yep.
And then it was like, oh, hey, I live in LA now. What up, man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's that guy. Yeah, hey.
Yeah. So like I kind of love exactly that because I know enough of your story where I'm like, I know you've done a lot. I know you've accomplished a lot, but I don't know the pieces of it.
Sure.
And I just have the feeling that you're the perfect guest for this podcast, where it's like you've kind of taken this alternative path, you've accomplished a lot, and you've done it all kind of on your own roadmap. And that's my favorite thing.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Yeah. So
Correct.
I'm stoked. For anybody listening that doesn't know who you are, before we get like deep into it, a brief explanation of who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I guess I would say majority of people that probably know you would know me through the band All Time Low.
Yeah.
I toured with them from 2008 until, I mean, kind of now, on and off.
Yeah.
Recently, I guess in the last 2 years, I've kind of moved a little bit further away from touring, and we'll get into that later. And now I own my own house management company out in Los Angeles. So I manage people's houses and staffs and estates.
Which to my understanding has been popping off, right?
Yeah, it's doing well. It was like it was kind of like one of these things where it was like a slow build, like almost like you're going up on the roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I would say like the last year, it's just been kind of like nonstop, which is, I mean, great.
Yeah. Well, again, and to the point of this podcast, like I love these stories and I love hearing about that because it's really cool to me to hear these origin stories almost, but then to hear people that come from music that go on to do crazy big things.
Yeah.
'Cause that's happened so much. We have
Yeah.
so many friends where it's like, I mean, I love to hear come up stories of musicians that blow up, but it's also kind of here to be like, kind of cool to hear I was in music and now I'm doing this and it's sick.
Yeah. And I think when I first started music, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, this will be the rest of my life. And I was like super stoked on it.
Yeah.
And obviously that has shifted and changed, but yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah, dog. Well, cool. I think that's a perfect explanation, at least to start. So where I love to start your story is wherever the time in your life of finding that thing, like probably something having to do with music,
Yeah.
but just getting outside of like the normal stuff in school or whatever, like where you found that spark to be like, I'm going to chase this.
Sure. Yeah, I guess it was, I'm trying to it's years ago. I feel very old by saying how many years ago it was. But I mean, I was in high school and I was in, some shitty bands and.
So you played?
Oh yeah, I played bass.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, this is great. Like this was fun. And
where did you grow up?
Detroit.
Okay.
So like we had a very, at least when I was in high school, our like local music scene was incredible. Like
really?
Yeah. Like, my friends' bands and stuff, like nobody would like think twice about drawing like 1,000 kids to a whole show, like a Knights of Columbus. Yeah. And like, it was just like straight DIY and like, everybody was on like half stacks. And so like, you'd only have vocals through the PA and like no mics on drums, but like, it was just 1,000 kids would show up and that's what everybody did for the weekend.
Dude, I understand why. That's insane.
Yeah. It was incredible. And now like with the internet kind of taking off and stuff like that, like I feel like there's less of a local scene now. Like I feel like you go from like startup artist to somebody likes you at Interscope or whatever and you're signed and you're on tour.
Well, it's really weird, right? Because like I try not to be the old guy that like buries his head in the sand and is like, no, it's different and I don't like it. Because I love what's happening with music right now. And I love seeing that people are able to self-produce and make their own music, upload it, make money. Like that's sick.
Yeah.
But I do agree that at least in my kind of like youth, early teens, going to local shows, finding that community and like having those odd pockets of wherever you grew up where it was like, oh yeah, here's just 1,000 people that love the same thing.
It's crazy to think about like some of these bands like My Chem, Fall Out Boy, All Time Low, like these bands all did that. Like they all did like these local shows and they would like trade other band, you know, like if you're from Baltimore, like you trade like somebody in Detroit and like you guys swap shows and like that's how it like happened. And that I don't think ever will it happen again.
Yeah, you might be right. Right? Like touring I think will always exist, but that level of you had to like kind of outsmart not the internet because the internet wasn't there. Like you had to figure it out. You had to figure out
it was
how
like
to grow.
DIY at its like purest form.
Yeah. Damn. Okay, so that was your start. You were playing in a band.
Playing in bands, and I was like, this is cool. You know, like this could be a fun life, and you know, did some small tours and like not really like making any money. It was more of a hobby, but it was definitely like a passion. You know, I was like, I really dig music.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like going to those Warped Tours and stuff. And I think I was more into like the backstage area. And not even so much like I'm backstage, but like, oh, like what's this guy doing? Like, why is he like I was into guitars and like those things, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, maybe like there's a different opportunity. Because the idea of your band getting signed and being successful enough to make a living off of it is, I mean, I think it's kind of like a needle in a haystack. And so I basically was in these bands and wasn't really doing anything with it, you know, like we were doing shows and like slowly getting bigger, but like I didn't think I was like 100% in, you know? And I was like, if I'm not 100% in, then I'm probably not 100% going to make it as a career.
That's some self-awareness, right?
Yeah. And I was like, what, like 18 at the time?
Yeah.
19. And so there was another band in Michigan that had just gotten signed to an indie. And because of like the whole local scene, I knew them and they knew me. And
would I know that band?
Every Avenue.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So they were one of the first bands I toured with.
Whoa.
And they had just gotten signed to
is it Fearless?
Yeah, Fearless. Yeah. And so they were like, well, we're going on tour. Like we need a TM, PM, merch guy, drum tech, everything.
Just crew.
And they were like, we can't, like, we're not making any money. Like we can't really pay you. But if you want to come, like, I needed experience. Yeah. You know, like no one's gonna, and even now, like after like starting my own business and stuff, like everybody cares about proof of concept.
Yeah. It feels like the practical experience and the know-how is so much more important than the formal education at times.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, like if I'm gonna, you know, be taken seriously and get larger tours, I need just to tour.
Okay,
like
so you were pretty self-aware. Like you kind of saw like a progression.
Yeah, I definitely like saw where I wanted. Like I was like, I want to be on a bus and I want all these things.
Yeah, and so you're in music enough where you're seeing that big bands are touring in buses and they're getting signed and they have these crews. Yeah. Like you're starting to put together the pieces. Yeah. Okay.
And I would like go. I would before like I even this Every Avenue tour. I would go like to shows of like 1,000 cap rooms. Like I saw Panic at the Disco at this venue called Clutch Cargo's, and it's like an 1,100 cap room. And I helped, it was like snowing, and they didn't have a runner, and I ended up like talking it up with their TM at the time, and like ran to get them food and pizzas, and then I helped like load this trailer with this other tech, and it was just like, I just wanted to be in it. And so I was like, I'll help, I'll do whatever. And so then, went on tour with Every Avenue. Yeah. And it was probably like, I don't know, 3 weeks long. Midwest, we went to New York and everything like that. And we were in a 15-passenger van. Yep. It was a like the Dodge Ram version.
Oh.
Yeah. It wasn't
like
a
rare breed.
Yeah, it wasn't a fancy Ford. Definitely wasn't the Chevrolet.
Dang. But I almost would say that the Ford, I almost preferred a Ford over a Chevrolet until later. I respect the Express.
I feel like the Ford ones always had like a weird smell in them.
Okay.
You know?
I can't.
You're just like,
I can't
this is a band's van.
that.
Like it smells like ish.
You were in the Ram.
Yeah. So we were in the Ram.
You were roughing it.
Yeah. And it was a summer tour and like started off fine. Things were going cool. And that was like my first, we were sleeping on floors. I was making tip money from merch and stuff and buyouts, and that was it. Yeah. You know? Yeah. But it was awesome. Yeah. Like it was like in its purest, like me in that purest form, like if I could bottle what that felt like.
Spiritually relate to that. What year? Like what era is this?
That was probably 2007.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2007.
Just a magical time.
Yeah, just a magical time in my life. I'd gotten out of like a 2.5 year relationship with like this girlfriend that I thought was like the one.
Kind of like that first.
Yeah, that first like serious thing. I was like, this is great. I'll live in Michigan, like blah, blah, blah. And then like it all just went south real quick. And I was like, okay, like I need to get away.
Yeah.
So tour was the perfect outlet for that.
Love that.
And so it was summertime. And I think like probably 4 or 5 days into the tour, the AC compressor blows on the van.
Perfect.
Right? Perfect, of course. So then we're like doing windows, right? But it was like we're driving through like Kentucky, like it was 100 degrees out. So anytime we would have to do a drive, like we would try to like drive at night, but sometimes you can't.
Yep.
And so like everybody would just kind of strip down to their underwear and just like sit in this van and just
if you don't move,
yeah, you're just like maybe I won't sweat so much. And it was so bad that on top of the compressor not working, we had like I don't know if it's because of the RAM was so short up front or something, but the engine would overheat unless you turned the vents to feet and turned on the heat.
Yeah, that's a trick.
Yeah. And basically all the heat gets sucked out of the engine compartment and blows into the van. So it was like, not only is it like so hot, it's 100 degrees, like it's 120 degrees in the van because like you're just blowing the engine heat.
Yeah, you couldn't describe the more like that's the van tour.
Yeah,
right. Like
100%.
That's it.
Yeah. And you like don't shower. It's like gross. Like through and through, it's gross. But I think it also like, in a way, every step further also like makes you, I don't know, like appreciate it more almost.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, like if you go like Sprinter to RV to bus, you know,
yeah, there's a bandwagon now in these steps. Yeah. I feel it. And it's also like, I think that you know that you're doing something like, I think you can tell if you love it, if you can do those van tours and be happy. Right.
Yeah.
Like if you can be in a 120 degree van, sweating and just roughing it and still at the end of the night be like, damn, this is so fun and like loving it. Like you probably have the grit to keep going and you're not going to get burnt out. Sure.
Totally.
Yeah. So that was your start.
That
Every
was the
avenue,
start.
roughing it in the van.
Roughing it in the van.
So what happens after that tour?
So after that tour, you know, they didn't have really anything scheduled. It was like, let's go ahead and go back to school.
Oh, wow.
Right. So, because I was always like in and out of college, like community college, because I didn't really have that's like the default path. You know what I mean? Like, well, if I'm not gonna,
did you have like a major, something that you were gonna?
Business.
Okay, so it wasn't even like super defined. You were
yeah,
just like,
no, I switched majors actually, because I don't know, from like general. I think I was business and I switched to like general business because I had to take an accounting class and I was like horrible. Like I was going to fail out of the class. So I was like, I just need to change my major. It's not required. Good to go.
Love that.
And so then I basically was like, well, I need to get on a tour. Like I need to do more. Like I need to get on a tour.
Mm-hmm.
And through the internet, I think it was like MySpace plus LiveJournal plus AIM.
Yeah, maybe a little Tumblr.
Yeah. Tumblr was like early stages, but I think like LiveJournal for sure was in like full stride.
Yeah, and AIM was
oh my
ripping.
gosh. Yeah, I had a sidekick too.
Oh,
like,
dude, must be nice. I never got the sidekick.
Yeah, it was great. And so I figured out that the Alternative Press Tour 2008 was coming through. Bands just got announced. It was All Time Low, who I knew about, but like didn't know anything about them, right? Yeah. Besides the fact that they were on like the playlist at Hollister.
Yeah.
And another band called the Rocket Summer.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, I feel like I love this genre of music. It's a good size tour. I need to get on this tour. So just started like talking to people on the internet of like, who knows this guy, blah, blah. And basically like somehow got put in touch with someone that knew the Rocket Summer's management. And then I was just like, I think I was just like pretty brutally honest with him. And I was like, hey, like, I'm really trying to get in touring. Like, I want to be a guitar tech. I would love to come out and work for you guys. Like, you know, the whole spiel.
Yeah.
And basically they came back and were just like, hey man, like, that's great. Like, thank you for, you know, like not
reaching out.
Yeah, basically,
sort of
it was
vibe,
just
yeah.
like, but like we're gonna be pretty good. Like we already have a guitar tech on this,
Yeah.
and so I was like, well, what about if you had another guitar tech?
No shit.
Yeah, because I was like, no isn't an option. Like I can't be at home, right? Like life is like depressing as fuck at home. Not like just because of like the whole relationship thing.
Yeah.
I was like, I just need to be doing.
You just
something.
had that
Yeah,
drive at that
yeah,
point.
I had to
You're
go.
like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, I will get
going.
on this tour. So I ended up taking a call with Bryce from Rocket Summer, and
Yeah.
he was like, so what's going on, man? And basically I was just like, hey man, like I'll work for like nothing. Like I just need touring experience. And basically like he was like, cool. And it was like all on me. Like like he was like super upfront to be like, hey, like we just don't have any money to pay you. Like it's not that like we don't think that you're good and everything, but like we just don't have it. And so I ended up working the tour for DMs.
Wow.
Yeah. But it got me on a bus in a bunk spot.
Dang.
And I was working for like one of the headliners of the AP tour.
And you got away from home,
Yeah.
and it got you experience.
Exactly.
And at that age, it's not like your overhead is that crazy.
No, I mean, I was living at home at the time. Like, I mean, I had a phone bill, and that was about, I mean, we ate catering, like bus stock rider.
I think back to that all the time where I'm like, how did I live off of such little money?
Dude.
Like pretty happily.
Yeah, you were like, this is great. Like, and I still have like, you take home like a couple $100 like, out of the tour. You're like, oh, cool. Like I can buy this.
It's incredible. So you did it.
You
Finagled your way
Finagled my way in.
Did not accept a no.
It was just like, again, it was like that moment where it's like, the bottle that happiness of like, you know, setting up gear every night on stage. And you're like, this is the coolest thing ever.
And also to paint that picture, because like it's funny now, like I do feel old, but I think some of the people listening to this like don't know that era of like touring and bands. But at that time, like that was the pinnacle. Like the alternative press tour, those bands touring, like that was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
It was at least in like a certain subgenre of people, right?
And it was cool because it was like both those bands, Bryce had just put out Do You Feel, and then All Time Low was coming off of Put Up or Shut Up.
Oh yeah, that was so big.
Right into So Wrong It's Right.
Yeah.
And so like the buzz around like that tour was like insane. Like, I mean, I think we were sold out like 85% of the dates just because like everybody wanted to go see it.
That's crazy. But the thing that stands out here is you were working for the Rocket Summer.
Yeah.
And so much of what I know you doing is All Time Low.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I basically started with Bryce and did the whole tour with him, stage right, and did like basically like helped the drummer because they didn't have a drum tech. Okay. Helped him, and then like did the guitar player stage right. And so tour started. I got to fly out to Dallas to like rehearse, which was like something insane to me. Like someone paid for my airfare
those
to like
moments, dude. It's magic
to like fly to like tour rehearsals. And so we started the tour, and basically, I think like the All Time Low dudes at the time were probably like 22.
Yeah,
young.
Yeah.
And very I don't know, like they like to have fun, right? Like it was just like a big party.
Yeah.
And me having never really toured in a bus or anything like that was all about the party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
were you like sheltered growing up, or were you like
I mean somewhat. Like I was homeschooled like till junior high, and then I went to like normal school. But I was in like a lot of like extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I had friends and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see those kids that were just like full, like super sheltered, and then they just wild out.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it wasn't like,
it wasn't that.
Yeah.
You were just like down.
Yeah. I was just like, this is fun. Like they always want to party. Like I kind of want to party right now too.
Yeah.
And it was nice because like our bus was a bit calmer, like more relaxed, you know? So like if I didn't want to like rage, I could just like go back to my bus. But I mean, by the end of the tour, like I was doing like days off with them.
Yeah.
And, you know, like
you just had that connection.
Yeah, it was just like, you know, like they became my friends. We were kind of on the same wavelength. And that was like the AP tour.
Damn.
Yeah. And it went by like so fast, but also like I thought it would never end in like the best possible way.
Certain ways that you paint like these pictures, like I just feel
You
it.
just
I'm
get
like,
it.
God, I
It's like
know.
you get it.
Yeah. That's so good. So, okay. So AP tour ends, your boys with All Time Low.
Yeah.
You're getting your touring experience.
Getting my touring. Basically, that's when, like the cycle, they had just started the So Wrong. Excuse me. They had just started the So Wrong cycle.
Yeah.
We had a couple weeks off, and then we went like right into tour.
Damn.
And somehow I basically was like, hey, like I understand. It seems like your tour manager is teching your guitars, and you guys are really on the up and up. Like you should probably have a guitar tech. And just kind of like, I was like, you obviously need a tour manager still, but he's very busy.
Yeah.
And so they basically were like, okay. And so they offered me the job, and I was doing all three of them.
Wow.
Like one boat. I mean, it was simpler times, so we had less guitars and everything. But and we just started like right in a tour. They were one of the first bands to like take me to Europe.
Damn. So that like from there, like that was just your people.
Yeah,
like
we were just in. I was
yeah.
just in.
Yeah.
And I mean, it became one of these things where I was like, do I move to Baltimore?
Right.
Because like we would always start every tour, like the bus would come to Baltimore, and then we would go to like wherever. And so I was spending like so much time in Baltimore, and all of their friends became my friends.
Yeah.
I was like, I could just live here. I'm like, this isn't bad. It's cool. Like,
yeah.
And so we toured for 2 years, 2008 and 2009, which was like the first, my first Warped Tour stint. Like I got a little taste of it.
Yeah.
And as someone who had grown up going to Warped Tours, the Detroit stop, it was like, oh, we're full circle. Like we've made it.
Dude, again, I couldn't relate more.
Yeah. And I mean, like, people like talk a lot of shit about Warped Tour, but like, it teaches you how to tour.
I am the biggest fan of Warped Tour because you're exactly right. Like Kevin Lyman and like everything, like you can't be lazy on that tour. And especially like the internet was definitely relevant as Warped Tour was happening. But if you really cared about your band and if you really cared about making it, it was the most obvious no-brainer. Here is a sea of potential fans. And if you work hard, it's there.
Yeah.
Like what other thing is so obvious in life where you're like, oh, cool, apply yourself and here's this. It was such a magical thing.
And I think from like, even like, I mean, that's 100% right from like the band aspect, but even from like a crew aspect, like having to like unload other people's gear and trucks every day. It's like, yo, like this is kind of like bigger than me. Like it teaches you not to be like, well, I'm a headliner, I'm not gonna it's like, yo, like everybody just.
That's so true as well, because it's not just the bands, it's everybody. Everybody has that work ethic, and it's hot as shit, and it's so much gear, and it's miserable.
Yeah.
But then again, there's also the sense of camaraderie, and it teaches you to work with people, and like at the end of the night, everyone is proud of the work they put in.
You ever see Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah.
Like when they tar that roof? That's what Warped Tour is. But at the end, they're like, cold beers for my friends. And that's exactly like if Warped Tour is a tea. Like if I had to make an analogy.
It's tarring the roof from Shawshank Redemption.
But you get the ice cold beer at the
end. That's too real. It's too good.
That's what it is.
But you were also doing it like, not only do I understand and love that, but that's so cool that you were doing it with, I mean, one of the most popular bands in that era. Like if you're on Warped Tour 2008, 2009 with All Time Low, like that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's, you're doing it.
2009 was the, that was the year like their Nothing Personal record came out, which like they sold like over 60,000 copies like the first week.
Which, not to steal your episode, but I don't know, maybe you were even at that show. It's crazy how from afar I'm familiar with All Time Low because my touring career starts around 2008.
Yeah.
Because Cody from Set It Off.
Yeah. That was Cleveland House of Blues.
Yes, dude. Were you there?
Yeah.
Oh my. So yeah, he hits Alex up on the internet, asks to sing a song.
Coffee shop.
Is so, and is so fired up from it. He drops out of school in Oberlin, Ohio, comes back to Florida and starts a band, Set It Off, with all my friends. And he was like, I wasn't anything in music. And they were like, yo, we need somebody to come sell merch, whatever. Yeah. So I had like a similar you thing where I was like, this is awesome. I need to get away.
Let's go.
And that. So like they are like the big
I didn't know he dropped out of
brothers.
school.
Yeah, dude.
That's
like a couple days after that. Like that was the moment. So like I know, like I can paint that picture because we started touring 2008, 2009,
Uh-huh.
but All Time Low was setting the bar. Like I
Yeah.
know what it was that like at that level from my side.
Yeah.
We were watching the
Sure.
videos and we were watching like if they're doing this and they're touring like this, and even, you know, like their style and everything
Yeah.
was so influential. So that's where I'm like, damn, that's so sick that you experienced it with them and had the, you know, like the chance to work with the people that were setting the bar.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
And I mean, it's like, now that you like explain it like that, like I think about it like a little bit differently, but from my side of things, it was like one of those things where you would, like in the spring, you would do like a US tour and we would play like X club. And then in the fall, we would play like the bigger club. And so like you could see like the moment, like it was, the pendulum was swinging and it was like, this is great. Like, and we, you know, I mean, it went from like a bus and a trailer to a bus and a truck, and then like 2 buses and 2, like, you know, like it's just started to go.
Yeah.
But
And wait, question there.
Yeah.
Because I think this is really important. Around that time, touring becomes real in a sense, right? Like you go from like the driving in a Dodge Ram, the AC is
Sure.
broken, you're just miserable with your friends, but loving life. And then you kind of get to that level where there's real demands and you have like a real crew and there's real, like there's structure.
right.
And that's kind of at the time, I feel like it weeds like the friends from the real ones out.
Sure.
Like you can bring your friends to a certain level, and
Yeah.
then there's a certain point where you kind of need to step to the plate and like be great at what you're doing. Certain people will skate by, but like I think that that's a very much like a level up moment. And I think that with you, you really did take it seriously. Like along the way, you're loving it, but you were evolving and mastering your craft and like very pro.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to like learn as much as possible.
What
you
was
know?
that like though, getting to those points? Like, did you have moments where you're like, fuck, I can't do this? Or were you just down for the challenge?
I mean, like I love tasks. Like
Yeah.
I love to complete tasks, you know? Like nothing makes me feel better than like, oh, I did that. Check that off.
Yeah.
Like I'm building a deck next week at my house because it's just like I can do this.
Are you a paper to-do list kind of
Yeah,
guy to
yeah.
get the tangible?
Boom, yeah.
Mhm.
Let me strike it off the list.
Yeah.
And so I mean, yeah, I didn't know a ton of things. So it was like I had books and I had like YouTube stuff. And then a lot of it honestly came from touring with other bands, larger bands, especially like on Warped Tour stuff. But there's also like this sense of like humility that I feel like a lot of people have a hard time accepting. But it's like if you had to like rewire a pickup and you've never like rewired a pickup, like go find like the best tech on the tour and be like, hey man, like, do you have, you know, time to help me figure this out? And majority of people will be like, yeah, like, of course. And so it was just kind of like trying to take in as much knowledge from everything else, to like get to a point where I was like, oh, like I'm pretty good at this now.
That's cool. Okay. So yeah, you just had the humility and like you were excited and down to
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So you're getting to the levels, like every time you come back to a club, it's growing more and more. You're just in the swing of it with them.
Yeah. I mean, we did. So like that, nothing personal was like a big record.
Mhm.
And so just toured like,
Yeah.
and I mean, if you know All Time Low, like they're a touring machine. And back then it was like, we would do probably like 5 or 6 shows a week.
Wow.
And just rip.
Yeah.
But it was like great, you know, and it was like all that experience.
And again, this is from afar because I don't know it, but it really felt like all of the crew and everyone was like so much of family and everyone was excited to be there that it like, I felt like you just kind of set this example of like how to go and do all like work hard, but love it.
I think they did like a really good job of it too, where like they weren't the type of band that was like, obviously if you're a tech and stuff like that, you're going to be working and like pushing cases and stuff. And the band like doesn't really do that because they're in the band.
Yeah.
But as far as like the hang, they were all about the hang. And so, you know, like days off, like we would spend them together. After show, we would go to a bar or whatever, spend it together. And they always did like such a great job of, if you wanted to go out, like people were going out.
Yeah.
You know, like, and they're all the type of people who you want to hang out with.
Yeah.
So it was easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's just what made it so much, like they weren't standoffish at all.
Yeah.
You know, like they took you in and like it was like a brotherhood, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was just basically like we're this big pack that moves around.
Yeah. Did you guys know, like, was that intentional or was it kind of just like, well, that's what you do? Like, because, you know, they were growing at such a fast rate and kind of like becoming like that big band. Like, were you aware to the point where you're like, yeah, like, let's set the bar, let's take care of people? Or was it kind of just like what felt right?
I think it's just what felt right. And I want to say it's because, you know, a lot of their crew came up with them from the van. So I think they had they felt somewhat responsible. Like, these are our people, you know, like they were here when things weren't as great as they are now.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, let's treat them well. Like they work hard. And so like, it was just kind of like that hard work deserves like reward.
That's cool.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it always was.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So then continuing on the story, you're touring with them.
Shows
are growing.
Get to go overseas. They took me to Europe. We went to Australia for Soundwave, Japan, like all these places that I had never thought I would be able to go to. And now I'm being paid and like things are being like the flights are free. And so it's just like to see this world this fast because obviously like when you're touring, you still want to be as economical as you can. So it's like we would go like Europe to Japan to Australia and then like come back through like Hawaii and do a show there and then back to LA versus like flying back and forth. So yeah, when we would do like overseas stuff, like you were gone for, you know, 6 weeks and I mean, it was gnarly, but it was great. And so as we're finishing up kind of that record cycle, I remember I was in my mom's kitchen, and something went up on, I think it was like ap.net or something, but it was the Fall Out Boy announced a tour, which was the Believers Never Die Part 2, and basically like, you know, rumor mill started going, and I remember like talking to people and they're like, yeah, they think like All Time Low is going to get offered. And I was like, dude, like that would be insane.
That's,
you know, like,
yeah.
I mean, because to me at the time, like for what our, you know, Cork Tree had already came out for them and Folie à Deux had came out. And so like they were the biggest band in the world to me.
Because they were getting like radio.
Yeah.
I think that was a big differentiation is like all the bands kind of like you could tell a kid that was into that music, you'd be All Time Low and Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
But a random would know Fall Out Boy because it was on the radio.
Oh yeah, sugar, we're going
time.
down. You're
exactly.
Like, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that basically was at, I think it was either like, it was at the tail end of 2009.
Okay.
And we were, it was us and Cobra Starship and Metro Station and Hey Monday. There's 4 bands on it. And then, Metro, Cobra, and ATL would all like rotate spots every night, depending on like the market and like where they were stronger and stuff like that. But, you know, that put us into arenas and like amphitheater, you know, like those things. And it's so like from like a bucket list standpoint, you're like, yo, I've like unlocked the next level.
Yeah, dog.
Like I'm level 20 now.
Let's go.
And I mean, like, obviously, like at the time, you know, like Pete Wentz was a golden god and he had his own clothing line and like was doing all the right thing, had his own bar. It was just like, this dude is
Angels
insane.
And Kings.
Yeah, this dude's insane. Like he's on top of the world.
Killing. Did he have the label by then? No.
I don't. Yeah, he had to have because Panic.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. So like everything was in like full effects.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, we get to tour with when I wonder if he's cool. Like,
yeah, dude.
Like, will we become friends with these people? Or are they gonna be like not care? You know?
Yes,
like,
dude.
And like I remember like we showed up and like they gave us truck space and we had a bus. And I just remember like we partied so hard with Cobra on that tour because we had like 0 responsibilities. It was like you had like a 30-minute set.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was so much fun.
Yeah, and like as your support, like you don't.
Yeah,
there's
it was easy, and like they treated us well. You know, like we got catering and
your
like
production's not
and,
that crazy. Like as far as crew, you're chilling.
Yeah, you're like, this is great. And so, yeah, we basically like did that tour. And through it, I kind of, like I've always been trying to figure out like what's next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and not saying that like I needed to go anywhere from ATL or anything like that, but like I think I was just like so open to anything that presented itself. Like I was chasing something. I didn't even know what it was.
Can I ask you a question to see if we relate on an even deeper level of that?
We can try.
Like the chasing what's next.
Yeah.
I find that to be such a blessing and a curse because I have that same thing where I'm like, just live in the moment. Enjoy it. Just fucking enjoy it. Be present. And I'm always thinking about that. So I don't know. Do you relate to that? Or
100%.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Like, and I think, I mean, as I'm getting older, I'm learning more and more and more that it's not about like the end game, but kind of the journey in between it. That
everyone
can, like,
says it.
Learn the most.
Yes, dude. It's so hard though.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I feel you. So you saying that, I'm like, yep. I get it.
Like, check that box.
So,
I ended up becoming friends with Wentz's assistant, who was on the tour assistant. She did like wardrobe and all this other stuff. And so I had always backtrack shortly. When I was in like a freshman in high school, I came out to San Diego to build like houses for poor people in Mexico.
What?
And so, but that's when I kind of like fell in love with the LA idea.
Okay.
You know, like beachfront living, like it's perfect weather. Like as someone from Detroit, like winter sucks. And so I think one of the end game goals was for me to live in LA.
Yeah.
And so became friends with her, and basically throughout the tour, she had originally started as like a makeup artist and makeup and hair, and then got this opportunity to come work for Wentz. And so hadn't been doing that. And she was like, I've done this for 2 years. I need to go back to what I'm passionate about. And I was like, oh, cool. That's cool. Yeah. And she was like, she was like, I'm going to have to find him a new assistant. And I was like, yeah, okay. And so basically it's just like me manifesting like, oh, like this would be insane. And so I basically just started my campaign to be like, I need this job. Like it puts me in LA. It gets me, working for this massive artist on a personal level. How do I do it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not that I wasn't happy with All Time Low.
Right. It's just the what's next.
Yeah.
Like how
basically
build.
that chasing mentality. So we ended up like finishing a tour. I had gotten Pete's phone number on the tour. Like, so we were like talking, and at the time I was like pretty into photography. And so like during the show, like I'd shoot their whole set, and he would give me like looks like this next move is coming type thing. So like I got some pretty cool photos out of it. I was like, oh, like we're kind of vibing. Like we're not friends, but like basically.
Yeah.
And so I basically set up an interview with his business manager and his assistant out in LA after we finished another All Time Low tour. And so then like in my very young mindset, I was like, well, I don't really have any money. Like I'm not really making any money. Like things are going well, but like I'm spending more money now. And I was like, I'll just text Pete and ask him if I can like stay at his house. Like, that's cool. Like he'd be cool with that. And I literally texted him and I said, hey, I'm going to be here for like 2 days. Is there any chance I could like crash at your place? And he was like, yeah, totally. And I was like, what? And so my buddy Nano picked me up and drove me to his house where I was staying. It's like this house in Beverly Hills, like this Spanish awesome, like it was like a villa, right? As a kid from like the Midwest that grew up in like a 900 square foot house, you're like, oh my God. Like,
yeah, dude,
you have more money than God. Like this is incredible.
Yes.
And so got to stay there, got to have the meeting with his business manager, and basically like, you know, I somehow like leveraged my way because they were like, oh, we can pay you this much money. And I was like, okay. I was like, it's doable. But you know,
wasn't what you thought.
Everybody wants more, right?
Of course.
And so I was like, well, how do I? And after like coming through LA a couple times, you're like, oh, it seems like everybody lives in these apartments. And I was like, I don't really want to have, like, rent seems very expensive for what this is.
Yeah, you're not
As
wrong.
someone who come from Michigan, you're like, oh, like,
you're like,
you pay more than like $300 a month for your place? Like, what are you doing? And so I leveraged, I was like, hey, you have that pool house. He had like a detached like 2-story pool house, guest house. I was like, what if I'll do it for that amount of money, but I want to live in the guest house? Because I was like, that gives me an extra $15K.
Yeah.
That it works out great, because then I mean, what's cooler than a 90210 zip code?
That, and you're like with him.
Exactly.
Like if you're gonna work with him, it makes sense.
And so they were like, okay. So I was like, oh, this is great. Like,
look at you, dude.
So flew back home, like told my parents. They were supportive, but I could tell like they were bummed.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, oh, like I'm literally putting all my things in a car and shipping it across the country.
And also, did they understand like our level of being like, Pete Wentz?
No.
Yeah.
No,
so
definitely
like,
not. No.
For you, you're like,
no,
you don't get it.
They were like, I mean,
life.
I guess you can go be an assistant. Like, cool. And I think as the all-time low touring got bigger and larger, it helped kind of calm their nerves a bit more, because I wasn't in a van anymore. Like, I was getting an actual paycheck.
Yeah.
Like they could kind of see that, like, oh, like, while this is a different lifestyle, like it's doing
real,
okay,
it's viable
so far.
Yeah.
And so then let's see. Packed up everything into my Saturn.
Perfect.
Shipped it out to California.
Yeah.
And then flew out to California to like start this job. Which then starts like the Pete Wentz era.
How long was that?
That started in 2010.
And you did that for a while, right?
Like 16 months.
Okay.
So basically, flew out and like jumped like right in. But also like this was the time, like if you remember, like after Believers Never Die, that's when Fall Out Boy announced their hiatus.
Oh yeah.
So it was like, okay, cool. Like I'm moving out here, but like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah. What did you do?
And so basically, I was like straight up like, I mean, I guess I'd call it like his personal like day to day, and like he was still like doing meetings, DJ stuff.
And I mean, yeah, he still had so much going on.
Significant other, so like helping with her stuff. They had a kid. Bronx was like a year and a half, 2 years old. And so it was just like full on like house, management of calendar and I mean, down to like groceries and everything like that. But I was in LA. I was I was living it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the downfall to that was I hadn't spent enough time in LA before moving out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I moved out there, I had no like chill period.
Oh.
It was like straight into work.
Yeah.
And me wanting to do like as good of a job, but also like living on the property, like kind of always available.
Yeah.
To help or work on this, whatever.
You were
so
always on.
Yeah, I was just like working a ton, and so I think like eventually it started to like burn me out because I didn't have really any support system around me.
Yeah, like you were kind of the Lone Ranger, like where you went out on your own, you did
and it was like I was trying to make friends, but it was like I was working so much that I couldn't. And then like I kind of knew these people from touring or those people, but like they all had other things or they were touring, and so like no one was really home. And so like it got like kind of gnarly at a point,
which is also a weird thing to talk about because on paper, like it's those moments where you're like your friends like, what dude, Pete Wentz, you're out in like California, LA. On paper, it's amazing.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then it's like this weird feeling where you're like, wait, how is this taxing me? How am I not
how is this breaking me
this
down
right now?
100%. And I think it's one of those things where if you look at like for touring, my mom always called touring the golden handcuffs because it's so hard to break out of because not many other jobs pay you as much money to do. I mean, because it's a hard life.
Yeah.
Travel is hard.
And you're not touring 52 weeks out of the year. So when you're paid, you're almost paid in a way that would keep you going. Yeah.
And so I think with, like it's just like that grass is greener syndrome, I feel, like while it's amazing, like everything still takes like water and you have to like work at it.
Yeah.
And I just got like really burnt out because I couldn't go anywhere because I was like working.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really have like a ton of friends. And then like I started drinking like a fair amount because it was like, well, I'm home alone.
Yeah.
Like, what else are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And so I think like that's like it was a great job and like a great, era of my life. But also like I just don't think I was ready for it.
Yeah. It wasn't the right circumstance.
Yeah, like I was just like I was so focused on like chasing the next thing that it wasn't like, hey, like live in this for a little bit. And then also like maybe like develop some more roots if you're gonna like move across the country.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Because how old are you at that point?
20. I turned 25 when I was working for him, but
Yeah.
he did throw me a dope birthday party at Angels and Kings.
Holy.
So
Can I tell my full circle?
yeah,
moment there?
please. I love this story.
This is so again, like to the side of us being like friends, but not like deeply every week catching up,
Yeah.
whatever. So I am touring with Set It Off. And it wasn't even us, like it wasn't even you and I that arranged it. I think it was Dan. But we were coming to LA for one of
Yeah.
the first times, and we didn't have money to stay anywhere. We were like van touring it at that time. And I think it was Dan. One of our guys knew you, and it was like
It'd be Dan or Cody.
Dan or Cody,
One
yeah.
of the two.
And they're like, "Well, Danny K's out there," and I'm like, let's text him, like kind of similar
Yeah.
to the Pete
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
right? Like, yo, can we stay with you?
Because it's like one of those things too where I feel like, and I think Pete actually said that too, like you in passing, like you'll say something about, oh, like would love to go to California. And then you go, well, if you're ever here, like hit me up, like stay at my place.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah.
like that probably happened to like Cody and me,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah.
me and Dan. Like, yeah, if you're ever in LA, like,
And then
come
the
kick it.
one side of it takes it like a deep vow of a
He
promise.
meant it.
where, yeah. And the other side is like, yeah, like maybe if you ever come through, I
Yeah,
don't know.
whatever.
So we text you, and we're like, I don't know, we're in the van, like somewhere in California, like lining up where we're gonna go. And you hit us back, and you're like, yeah, sounds good. And it's when you're living at his back
Yeah.
at Pete Wentz's
Yeah.
back house. And we're in the van, and we're like, we're gonna go to Los Angeles, California, and stay in Beverly Hills
Yeah.
at Pete Wentz's
Yeah.
house. Set It Off's name is named after a Fall Out Boy lyric. Like, we're like, this is it. We've made it. Everything's gonna line up. This is the craziest thing in the world. And we get there, and it feels like a movie thinking back to this moment. Because again, like you paint the picture, it's like this villa. And
Yeah.
we like go to this back house, and I remember we get there, and you're like, "Yo, what up, dudes?" Like you don't like you're just like, "Yo, hey," and we're like, bringing like whatever sleeping bags or
Yeah.
whatever. Like we're just like kind of coming in, and like we're all so nervous. And I remember going into like your house area, and you had a framed Know Your Lifer feature from Alternative
Yeah.
Press, and I was like, "This guy is so famous,"
Which is kind of like douchey now that I think about it. It's like
I
on my
don't
own
think
wall.
so. It's an
Put in the office or
accomplishment.
something. I don't know.
And you had a Red Bull fridge.
It's
And
true.
I was like, this guy. And it was this moment where I was like, this is Hollywood, baby. Like it was so insane. And you were so nice to us. And we were such an amateur rookie touring band. And I think about that. And I think about the lesson of like, just those little things you can do for people can mean so much. And you did that.
That's
and
amazing.
that is the most full circle.
Dude, I love it.
Thank you.
I remember like, yeah, you guys like, I think you got lost.
Oh, we certainly did.
Like, and you're like, we can't find the house. And I was like out, and I think I was in like Pete's Range Rover, and I like pulled up, and I was like, oh, it's like this way. Follow me this way. And like, I remember I was like, you guys will have to like park a little bit down the street, because I was like, I didn't run it by like Pete.
And thinking about that now, like what a homie you were. Cause like,
Oh, I was like, we're not going, like there was a side entrance, all these things. Like
Yeah.
it's very, and I felt like he would have done the same thing like in that time,
Yeah.
And so I was like, just park a little bit up the street. So
Yep.
that way he's not like, who the fuck's band in Troy? Like what band is here?
Mhm.
But yeah, you guys like brought your air mattresses, and I think we hung up by the pool.
Dude, it was so crazy. That was like our first time coming to LA. Like,
I came to your show after the next day.
and
Came to your show.
it was like the fact that somebody from all time when Pete Wentz were like, this is it, boys. Like it was really cool. And I don't know, that lesson, things like that, moments like that, at least in my touring career, I had people that were really douchey and really egotistical. And then I had people like you that were like kind of paid it forward and didn't have to be nice when you were nice. And like, even like doing this podcast with you now, I'm like, you're a fucking real one.
Thanks,
so
man.
that's cool.
I appreciate it.
So that's the Pete Wentz saga.
That's the Pete Wentz saga.
And then what happens after that? You went back to touring?
Yeah, so basically I went home for Christmas.
Hmm.
And um had like a really good talk with my dad and basically was like I'm not happy, but I don't know what to do. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I'm not like this isn't fun anymore. And not that like it always has to be fun.
Yeah, but you just felt it.
Yeah,
There was
like there was a
something
lot
there.
more of me like not being happy than there was me being happy. And so I was like, I think I have to like do something. I have to like I don't know. And so uh sure enough, like sent an email to I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Like I'm gonna leave Pete. I'm gonna figure something out. And sent an email to ATL management and basically was like, hey, like
It's
I'm
your boy.
free now. Sorry for the lapse. Or, you know, like sorry for like the extended leave. Would love to, you know, come, you know, work for you guys again if you'll have me. And they had done some stuff on that cycle and everything, but like I think a lot of it too, like they were writing a record as well. And so like there wasn't a ton of touring that I missed. 2011, um, we got to take out Yellow Card. That was like they were on hiatus and they came back and they had
Yeah.
like a new record, but then they played all these old hits that I loved. And you're like, oh my God, like this is awesome. We went around the world with them. So like they
Wow.
became like homies.
Yeah.
And then 2012 hits and they announced that they'll be on the full, like basically full Warp Tour.
Like
Yeah,
headline.
we get announced that we'll be on the full Warp Tour.
Oh, okay, okay. Yellow Card.
Yeah,
And
Yellow
then you
Card,
guys, yeah.
ATL. There were so many good bands on it that year, and like it was just like, and I think by that time, like I felt like I was like a seasoned veteran with Warp Tour. It's like, oh, I get it. I know how it works. Like going to see my friends, and basically, yeah, like 2012 was just all Warp Tour, but it was like that one. 2012 Warped Tour was really special because it was like it was big. Like Lyman was like, yeah, it was like basically as big as like that Fall Out Boy, My Chem. Like,
Yeah.
and
It
so
was
you're like,
just
yeah,
that.
we were sold out and like you were working for a main stage band. It was just cool. And
Yeah.
like all of your friends, because like you spent so many summers before doing it. And then basically, I mean, it just, you know, the cycle continued and, you know, we would do Europe again and Europe started to grow really, you know, faster and faster because I feel like the UK and Europe kind of take a bit more to bands
Yes.
than US.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we, you know, we were doing larger, you know, Brixton Academies and like these 5,000 cap rooms and everything in Europe. And you're like, holy cow, like again, like just level up, level up, level up. And it was, I mean, it was incredible. But then at the end of, I guess, end of 14, beginning of 15, ATL was going back to make a record.
Yep.
And by that time, like everybody was making like good money and like we'd figured it out, you know,
Yeah. Like you hit your
yeah. I was like,
stride.
this
It
is
was
a job
dialed.
now. Like it's cool. And so basically I was
Were
like,
you living in LA or did you go back to Detroit?
I was living in LA. I
Okay.
went back. When did I come back out here? I've been out here for probably, what is it, 20? I don't know, almost 10 years.
Okay. So you came back and kind of had it figured out more too.
Yeah,
Not only were you dialed as
Yeah,
far
so I
as
had
your
friends, and I live with Ryan, Ryan from the band,
Yeah.
our friend Gavi, in like this cool like 3-bedroom apartment in North Hollywood.
Cool.
Because like I was, you know, like making money to be able to afford an apartment in
Yeah.
LA, and like we had a door guy, and it was cool.
Yeah, cool. So it just was better. You were in like more
I was
of
in a much
rip.
better place. I had all these friends now from like having been back to LA so many times that
Yeah.
it was just like, oh, this is normal now. This is home. It
The
feels,
stride.
yeah, feels good.
Yeah. And then they go to record an album 2014, 15.
Yeah. And basically I was like, well, I can't go like 3 or 4 months without a paycheck. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I haven't structured my finances in a way that would provide for that. And so I was like, well, I have to work. I have to go out on the road. I didn't really want to like guitar tech because I had just enjoyed it so much with ATL. It was like, to go do it for another band might be weird. I don't know.
I'd feel that.
So kind of put feelers out, talked to everybody that I knew. And basically the fan club that ran All Time Low also ran Fall Out Boys.
Whoa.
And Fall Out Boy had just announced the tour with Paramore.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, this could be dope. I mean, Fall Out Boy was already back in cycle. Like they already had all their dudes. I was like, but maybe. So I hit up the rep and I was like, do you need somebody for this? And she was like, actually, yeah, we do need a VIP rep for it. I think you'd be great. Like you already know the Fall Out Boy guys. Like everything just kind of was like, yes, I am the perfect choice. So basically like got on this tour, the Monument tour. And that was another box for me because that was a full amphitheater run.
God.
So we got to do like Red Rocks and like, I mean, we played DTE, which is like the amphitheater in Detroit that you go to as a kid. And so you're just like, this is even more insane. And it was like easy work again because it was like VIP stuff. And then I just got to watch the show. And so that was rad. And then it also kind of like helped I'd stayed in touch with Pete after everything, but it's just like,
you guys were chill.
Yeah, we were cool, but like he had kids and, like doing dad stuff. So like we just kind of from going to seeing someone every day to being like, oh, like, hey, whatever. So that just helped, like, I guess, I don't know, like us become better friends again.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that was rad. And then basically it was like ATL still doing a record. I need more work. I need stuff. Like, what do I do? So then I got a random phone call that 30 Seconds to Mars needed a guitar tech for Jared. And they're like, do you want to do it? And I was like, not really, but I need the money. They're like, this was in like February. They're like, oh, by the way, it's a month long and it's basically in Russia in the winter. And I was like, well, I've never been to Russia and I guess it could be cool. It was not cool. It was not cool. It was just a long time to be in like
can't say you didn't give it a try.
Yeah, I gave it a shot, but it was just like we were playing like all these like weird hockey arenas because that's all that exists in Russia. So then I was like, well, I gotta figure out something else from this. Like this isn't this, but like it also helped reaffirm that like I was happy with like ATL.
Like you had
I was like, this was cool. Like I got it, and like I tried it in a different capacity with something else, and I was like, doesn't feel as good. And so I was like, well, what do I do next? And I was like, I haven't really done a lot of like arena touring, right? And so I'm just trying to like check boxes at this point to, I don't know, fill a void or do something, just, and so I knew someone who was touring with Demi Lovato, and I basically was like, they were hiring people for like the VIP thing. And so that she was like, well, I need like a photographer and someone to help me like run these meet and greets. And I was like, done. Like, give it to me.
I can do that.
Yeah, I can do that. And so got brought out on that, did like a full cycle with Demi, and basically like did the full US tour as VIP and stuff like that. And I guess I'm like, I can be good at like, I don't know, making friends with like production people and like, I don't know, like decent hang.
Yeah.
And so like,
hang.
So I became friends with like her PM and like, all these other people. And I remember I was in the production office and just hanging out. And the PM goes to me. He's like, Danny, he's like, do you know of any guitar techs? Because like they were having issues with their guitar tech. And he was like, I'm just so over this. Like we need to find a replacement. Like, let me know what do you think?
Funny you say that.
And I was like, well, weird, because before this VIP stint, like that's all I would do. And so
you'll never say.
Yeah. So I got brought in to do guitars for her, which was cool, but it was also like it was like a different level. You know what I mean? And and like, I had known her for probably 10 years, like back, met her with All Time Low, ages ago. But like it was a straight pop, like A-level pop tour. You know what I mean? And so it was just like load-in was at 6 a.m. and like trucks dumped at 6:30. And like it was just full-on work, like it was fun. And we had a lot of fun, but also like it was like, oh, like this is like the other side of it, like the less family-ish and more like this is a job. I go to work every day. And did that for a couple years.
Oh, damn.
Which worked out well because I actually met my future wife on tour with Demi. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So that was like the best thing to come out of it. for sure. But after that, my PM would like, I feel like once you get to that level, PMs kind of like have a team, you know what I mean? And so like when they get hired for a different tour, a different artist, basically the artist will clean house and then the new guy brings in all of his people.
Yeah.
And so he basically was like, oh, I just got offered the Sia tour. Would you want to? He was like, obviously, like she's a, tracks and like there's not a band. So I don't know what you'll do, but would love to have you as a part of it. And so I was like, okay. So I ended up doing dressing rooms for, for Sia and for the whole tour. And like for Sia stuff, like we were carrying like close to a semi's worth of like dressing room stuff. We had dancers and we had PM, TM, security, accounting, like all these things that I would like plan where their rooms were, like do all the signs. But then for Sia's room, like, yeah, we were traveling with like restoration hardware couches on like set carts and like,
perfect,
white drape, which is like super easy to have clean, and like humidifiers and like low voltage lighting.
Okay.
And so I would just find like the quietest room in the arena and build out this room that I tried to make look exactly the same every day.
Tight.
And that was like almost like a full year of that. And it was cool. And it was nice because, I seem to do very well, like in close quarters with, I don't know, like pop star like that. It seems to like be it seems to be like a vibe that like, they're not like weirded out by me. And it's like, I kind of do my own thing and mind my own business. So by the end of it, like I, like knew Sia on a first name basis and she knew me. And I was like, this is cool. So then, fast forward, that tour stops. She's not doing anything for a while. Again, DK needs work. All Time Low is like, hey, we're going back out. Like, should we get the band back together? And that was when they were doing the supporting Blink.
Oh, crazy.
On the amphitheater run. Which was another Blink as
Blink
a band.
was so
like,
big for all of
exactly.
us.
I was like, this is incredible. And we were like support. And so like our set was short and
you're hanging out with all your best friends,
out with all my best friends,
watching
like,
Blink 182.
They treated us like super well, like gave us what we needed. And it was just like a fun, like a really fun time. And I guess an era of touring.
Yeah.
Because by that time, like we were all adults. Like everybody knew like what they liked and didn't like.
Yeah.
And it was just like a big moving thing.
Yeah.
So at the end of that, I had started to like not feel burnt out, but felt more like if I don't do something different right now, I will tour the rest of my life.
Wow. A very self-aware
Yeah,
moment.
like almost like a coming to Jesus type thing where it's like, hey, like this is getting intense. Like this is getting to be a thing, like you've done it for close to 10 years by now. Like what are you going to do? And I think what kind of sparked that was seeing the people on the Sia team that were 15 years older than me, 20 years older than me, and being like, I don't know if I want that, you know what I mean? Like I had been in I was in a serious relationship. And so I was like, leaving was harder and harder, and to leave for months at a time was even harder. It's like, well, I want to spend time with this person. Like, I don't want to like not see them. But also it's like, this is all I know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it was like, and that's not to say that like people that want to tour for the rest of their lives, like that's awesome. Like if you have like that fire and that passion, do it. Like, please. Like for me, it was like, I kind of want to have a family and a wife, and I eventually want to buy a house and maybe like settle down a bit more. And it was just like being gone for 8 months out of the year wasn't effective.
Yeah.
For that. And so same thing kind of happened. Basically, ATL was going back to do a record. And I was like, I need to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what about real estate? And I was like, that seems kind of fun. Like I love like LA architecture and houses. it's kind of like not like touring, but like one-stop shop, kind of your own thing, like
Mhm.
you're your own boss. And I was like, I could sell houses. And then the idea was like, if you can, sell X amount of dollars, like you can make some serious money
Yeah.
in real estate. And who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll start studying for my real estate test and then try to figure it out. At the same time, um, Demi's management was starting their own VIP division. And so they were like, we want you to build this company from like the ground up. And like, if we can go in house with it, we'll make more money. We'll provide jobs for the people that we want to provide jobs for. It just seemed like an
Damn.
easy thing. So I was like, okay, cool. So I was like making money. Like I had a job that I went into the office every day in West Hollywood and it was fine. It like, it got old real quick,
Yeah, damn. So you had a taste of like office life and you're like, okay,
Yeah,
that's
it was
not
like
it.
it was like a small office, but it was like I was there every day, like answering emails and like in meetings and stuff like that. And so I was like, I'll on the side, I'll work on getting my real estate license. So um took the test. The test is just pass or fail.
Yeah.
Somehow I passed.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got my license. So I was like, oh, this should be easy. Like, what's next? It was not easy. And it goes back to that whole proof of concept thing, like nobody wants to say, hey, like, cool, list my $1 million house, but also how many houses have you sold?
Right.
Oh, 0. Like, I've never done this before.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is $1 million home.
Yeah.
Or it's like, cool, like I'm going to spend like, clients, like I want to spend $1.5 million on this house. And I was really good at like finding, like hot properties or like cool properties and stuff that they vibed with. But like, I didn't know anything about the paperwork. I didn't know about inspections or any, like I was totally blind.
Yeah, dude. How are you
Yeah.
supposed to?
And so like the same thing goes, well, how many houses have you like helped with your transaction? Well, 0. And so needless to say, like, it just wasn't my thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and it also like I was in an office there as well, and it was like pretty cutthroaty.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just was like too cutthroat for me.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's because like from a touring thing, like the main goal is to work together to put on a show. And this was like everybody's out for themselves. Like, well, if I'll steal this client, I don't care. Like, whatever. So I was like, well, this isn't gonna work. So I kept doing the VIP thing, and then I was like, well, maybe I can like start a business or something, do something else. Like what am I good at? And that's when like the whole thought of kind of like what I'm doing now with DK Home Management kind of came to be.
Yeah.
And I just started building while I was at this other job. I would be building like decks, like pitch decks, and like refining like what it was and what it was supposed to be. And it always came down to that thing still where it was like, well, like what clients do you have? I don't have any clients yet. And so it was like that proof of concept thing that was so hard to get over because nobody wants to hire someone that they don't like believe in, you know what I mean? And so, Alex from All Time Low had just bought a house out in, LA. And I had moved in there with him actually, because he had lived in the apartment that I was in. It was a whole thing. And so I just started doing stuff for his house.
Cool.
Right. Just like pro bono. Like I was already living there, and it was like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, I'll make sure this works, or I'll like install this outdoor lighting or whatever, like figure this out, trial by error kind of.
Yeah.
And so then I was able to say, oh yes, I already have, a clients, whatever. Which kind of gave me, I guess like just the, I don't know, the ability or the confidence
Yeah.
to like go after new clients.
Yeah.
And so, at that time, basically I was like kind of on and off with, ATL, like when they would do stuff, I would help them out, like holiday stuff, but really like trying to do like this VIP thing and this other house management idea.
Yeah.
But still like was making $0 from the house management stuff. So then, I had my pitch deck, and basically, ATL was slotted to go back out on tour in like 4 months. And so I was over the VIP thing. I was like, I need to leave this, but it's a check for right now. I didn't really want to tour again because I knew that was like I wanted to get out of it. So it was like, okay, like what do we do? So basically figured out their tour routing, and like they still had like 3 or 4 months off. So I was like, well, I'll give myself 3 months to get this off the ground. And if it doesn't, I'll just go back on tour and another year will go by and it'll be fine and I'll make, money and I can live fine. But like, at least this is my window. Like, this is my
I
opportunity.
love that.
So sent out this pitch deck to like everybody. It was like a very like one-stop shop type thing at its initial phase.
And the idea being that if you have property and you're traveling, you need somebody to upkeep it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, think of it like a tour manager, but for your house.
Cool.
Like, like the same way, like if you're an artist, you have a manager that like kind of looks over everything that you do. Like I do that, but just for your house.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of my clients now, like they travel or they tour or they're on set.
Yeah.
And they have like these great properties, but a house is like needs a ton of upkeep.
Yeah, it's almost like when you're renting, you can call your landlord or you can call your maintenance guy and be like, hey, this.
Yep.
But if you own a house, where's your that?
That's me.
Perfect.
Yeah. So now like what I do is basically I have these clients that I rep and their houses, and basically I act as like a liaison between them, like the client, and then everything else.
Yeah.
So whether it's like pool guys, maids, staff, contractors.
It's kind of funny too, because it ties in this weird, unexpected way with every skill you've learned in touring. Right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
You know how to technically, like, I mean, as a guitar tech, you can fix things. You understand like a hands-on method of working on things.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a lot you can just do on your own.
Yeah.
But then you also understand having the network for everything,
Sure.
and understanding what a social network is good for, like,
Yeah.
putting those pieces together.
Exactly.
So as you're explaining this to me, I'm kind of just like, wow, that makes a lot of sense.
It was like, what are you good at? And like, what are you kind of like doing? And I was like, I like houses, and I like, working for myself, but also like, I still, love to be like in the, I don't know, I guess like the aura of something bigger or, like the next thing. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like, this is great. So I was doing Alex's stuff. And then basically, one night they were having a party, and like, it was a late party. It was like 2:30. There's music blaring. I was sleeping and now I'm woken up. Music's not going to go down till like 4 a.m. So I was like, well, I'll just get up and see what's up. So I like put on my bathrobe and I like go downstairs, like take a beer out of the fridge, like go to the people are like in the pool. They're like, oh my God, Danny! I was like,
Yeah.
So I'm like sitting down, and like one of the people at the pool I knew, and she goes like, oh my God, I hadn't seen you in a while. And I was like, yeah, like I've just been, really working, trying to get my house management company off the ground. And she goes, oh, what's that? And I explained it, and she was like, oh my God, we need that. And that was Halsey. And so basically, her assistant, like recognized the need. She was like, we don't know what we're doing. Like, these 20-some-year-old girls that, have this cool house, but like, we want it to be nice. And
I would also imagine that if you're at that level of celebrity status, like, you don't necessarily want to go on like Yelp and be like, yo, I need an electrician.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who's coming
100%.
out. And like, yeah.
And even like still like, I have friends that will be like, hey, like we just had a locksmith come over, and they said it would be like $1,100 to change this lockout. Like, do you think we should do it? And it's like, no. So it was, it's a bit of, managing what their needs are and stuff, but also it's like anything else where it's like you want your team, you want to be comfortable around your team. And so now, like, I've kind of developed these relationships with all these other clients as well now, that basically it's like, it's okay for me to be in their house. Like, they don't feel threatened. Like, they know I'm just there to like work on the thing. They know I'm going to supervise the vendor. So like whoever I bring in isn't like just, roaming around their house. They don't have to deal with it. It's just kind of like this one-stop shop.
That's brilliant. And like, again, you're touring, like having been out with Sia and Demi Lovato, and you understand how to deal with somebody that has some kind of celebrity status. You're respectful. You're not weird. Like, it makes so much sense. And the other thing that I like kind of ties in of like the question that I was going to ask you is like, your story, it seems like there's this theme in it where you clearly are always pushing yourself to accomplish new things. You're always chasing something. But there was also like this theme of like, well, I don't quite know like this. Maybe I'll try this. Like you backed a bunch of really good work. Like anytime you would go out and do an opportunity, you clearly executed it well. People liked you. But you've also kind of been down to try new things and learn new things. And it's this combination of hard work, understanding social skills and a network, and then also pushing yourself to kind of navigate this unknown, which leads you now to a spot where all of your strengths have paid off in this really unexpected way.
Yeah.
And so many of the, like, there's this common theme that I hear in like very successful people that I'll talk to where they find that gap. They find that missing piece of like, oh, like where is something not being done well? And you had a lot of trial and error to get there. You got your real estate license. You did all these things and you were kind of trying to get off the road, but at the same time knew it was there. And then it like all comes together in this beautiful way where the skills tie in and you're like, cool, this is it. And it just clicks.
Yeah.
And I love that because I think it's so easy to see somebody. I mean, now, you know, if somebody just met you, they'd be like, damn, like you're managing all these celebrities' properties. Like you have it so figured out. But the story of what it took to get there and all those things coming together is wild, right?
100%. And I think like I'll still get like DMs or, you know, stuff from kids who want to tour, you know, like who want to get into touring. And they say, how do I do it? Like, how do, like, what can, you know, and I kind of say the same answer now, you know, and it's like, if you really want to tour, you know what I mean? Or, you know, like you need to, if that isn't an option, then you need to, you know, start working at a venue or like do the, you know, like you need to put in so much more effort than you think it's going to take.
Yeah, because that's kind of what I feel in your story is there are moments of uncertainty where you're like, I don't know how to get here.
Yeah.
This seems cool. But then like you were showing up at Clutch Cargo's loading gear. You sent the second email, you did the second call with Rocket Summer where you're like, no, I need to come out on this. Like, maybe you didn't fully know, but you were like very persistent.
Sure.
And then you also backed it with a good product. You were a good hang. Like all of these pieces that anytime you were uncertain, you had skills to back it and you did something about it. Right? Like it wasn't just manifestation into the air with no work.
But I think like the manifestation thing is like real.
I agree.
Because I think that that affects your mindset so much.
Yeah.
If you're you know, and universe, whatever you want to call it.
It's hard not to sound cheesy because I'm here for it, but I'm not trying to be a hippie about it.
No, but it's like, it's basically like if you think about something hard enough, I think it's like your actions start to go towards that and you're working towards that goal.
Yeah.
And so eventually like things start to align.
It feels like that with you.
Right. And I don't think it's because of like, I don't think it really, I mean, I guess there's a little bit of luck, like right place, right time. Like I was at that party and like that, all those things. But also it's like you're putting in so much work and effort that like something will happen from it.
Yeah, right. Like, cool, you were at that party, but had you not put in all the other work, had you not tried to make those decks and real estate, like you wouldn't, what would that conversation have been? Like, oh, cool, like, ready, you going out? When's your next tour? Like, that's all.
100%.
And that's crazy to me. And I guess like it's hard for me because I could go on an episode like this forever and get into that, but maybe even we come back and specifically talk more on that.
Sure.
But I guess it is kind of that question of if somebody is listening to this and they relate to your story of like being down to kind of pivot around and having tried so many things and kind of having that idea of what you want to do, not knowing how to connect those pieces, but like knowing that, like chasing that, right? Like knowing there's something there, knowing that you have a skill. What is your advice? And maybe if you'd even give it like advice to yourself when those times were a little more uncertain.
Sure. A big thing that really helped me, and like it does kind of sound cheesy, but I made a vision board.
Dude.
Yeah.
Same.
Of last year actually. And that's when like the home management company kind of started to take off. I went from like 2 to 7 clients in a year. And And I had said I wanted 8 was my goal.
Yeah.
And then literally on like December 20th, like the 8th showed up and like dropped into my email and be like, hey, like we noticed like you're doing this. It came as a referral from so and so. And I was like, there we go. But yeah, like vision board was a big thing. Like, cause
Explain because that can sound cheesy. So
Sure.
you're like listening to a
Yeah.
podcast, you're like, okay.
so
like, what was that to
I
you?
broke it up in a couple different ways. I kind of broke it down to like my next year goal, like
Mhm.
goals, you know,
Mhm.
like 2019 goals. And then there was like a 5-year goal and there's a 10-year goal. And from somebody who like doesn't really do that, you know, I was like, I don't really know what to do. But it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else but you. You know what I mean? And so like one of the goals is like I want like a 23-foot super air Nautique ski boat. And it was just like, well, that's kind of dumb. Well, yeah, it's dumb to you. Like I want a boat.
Yeah.
And like one of the other things was like I want to make, you know, X amount of dollars a year.
Yeah.
I want to sign this many new clients.
Yeah.
I want like to sign you know, have like a couple people that work for me, like develop a team. I only want to fly business class, like all those things. And like nothing is stupid if you don't think it's stupid. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So like go at it because like, you know, as far as I know, like we only get one shot at life, you know? So it's like, take it for everything.
I love that. And I also think like on that line, like nothing is stupid unless you think it's stupid. But like when you're putting that together, nobody has to see it.
No,
like
mine
you don't have
was
to
in
be
my
shy.
closet, like in my closet, like next to all these long sleeve shirts. And like every day when I would like get dressed, I would see it and be like, let's go.
Was it actual pictures though?
Yep. Just I did it in like an Apple Paint and like dragged in photos.
Yeah, like almost like an old school collage.
Yeah,
but like with
100%.
Yeah,
and just printed it out and like stuck it in the closet. But having something that you know, like your 19 goals or whatever year you know you're working on, and just working towards those things, I think you know a constant reminder because like I'm working so hard in these like next 2 years, right? Like right now, like 60, 80-hour weeks, whatever. But I'm not doing it for this year. Like I'm doing it for the 5-year goal. I'm doing it for the 10-year goal. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing it for like the house that I want to buy in Nashville eventually. Like we had put a house, we bought a house fall of last year. And that was on the 5-year goal. And it was just like things happened and things opened up. So we were able to like get it way sooner. And you know, the ability to say, you know, hey, I bought a home in LA was like a giant thing for me.
that's insane.
I mean, not even like LA, but you know, wherever you are, like a house is a giant like a very adult purchase.
Yeah.
But it was like something that we wanted to go after. And so just to, you know, I think take those things and to work towards them and to make them a reality is incredible. But I think you also have to know that nobody is really going to want to help you. Like that's a giant thing that when I first was starting house management stuff, I was like, oh, this will be easy. I have all these friends. And it's like, no, like everyone's busy. Everyone has lives. And like, yeah, like
it's
like,
not an offense to you thing.
No, not at all. And also like nobody's going to love your shit as much as you love your shit. And so like, as long as like you're gung ho about it and are stoked to work hard on it, like things will happen that are supposed to happen. But I think it takes like a lot of like, you know, trudging through like the mud and stuff to like figure it out. And I think, you know, not to like get all like internet and, you know, new age, but we just live in that era that like doesn't always show that part. It's like a highlight reel, you know? It's like, this is me on a jet.
I mean, I love that you're saying that right now because that's the point of this podcast, right? Is like, that's why I like to take the time to break somebody's story down and understand from day one.
Sure.
Now it's like, yeah, cool. We see the highlight reel. We see the people where it's like, damn, must be nice.
Yeah.
But all of those people come from these backgrounds that you might not even expect.
Yeah.
That have put so many years in and had to figure it out.
Yeah. My friend's dad really helped me with just kind of like some just advice when I was just starting out, and I was, you know, I was talking to him, and I was like, I don't know what's going, you know, like I go to work, after work, like I do, you know, work on my deck or work on my pitch stuff, try to reach out, send emails, whatever. It's just, it's not working, you know? And he basically was just like, no, you're just not working hard enough. And he's like, fuck your 9 to 5 job. He was like, come in at 7 o'clock in the morning, work until 3, and then you have 2 extra hours to do house stuff. And he's like, you're just not like, you expect it to be so A plus B equals C, but it's like, no, like you need to work twice as hard as, the next person, because it's like, if you just need to work harder. And I think that's like the big thing that people are scared about. Like they're like, well, I don't work weekends. And it's like, well, if you want it badly enough, you'll work every weekend.
You just said that in such a beautiful way of like, it's not working. No, you're not working.
Yeah.
Like,
and once he said that, I was like, shit. I was like, he's totally right. Like I was expecting, like you can't like expect the results that you want when you're already not putting in enough work to begin with.
And that, like the thought of how much work it is, I think at any level is like this brutal reality, or it can be this brutal reality of like, you think you're willing to put the work in. And then as you get into it and it's like, you're going to do real estate.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, 100%.
And then it's like, cool, property management. And you think all your friends are going to hook it up. It's going to be so easy. You know all these people. And then it's like, oh, fuck. Like they're here for you, but like, they don't care.
Right.
Like they have their own shit to
Sure.
do. So it's like at that point, that I think is the hardest point. I think being at a spot where you do have your network and you're out here in LA and you're like in it and you're like, I got this.
Yeah.
And you're grown and you've had some amount of success, and then the universe checks you and it's like, do you?
Yeah.
That's a crazy spot.
And I think it's like that false sense of security too. You're like, things are great. Like I have this job, I'm working on the side thing. Things will figure them, like it'll work out. And it's like, well, maybe like, but if you want to fast track it, like double down on yourself, like put in the work, figure it out. And then like, yeah, like you'll have a much better chance of succeeding with whatever you want to do, whether it's music, whether it's touring, if you're willing to go like all in on it.
Bro, my guy. That's such a beautiful, I love that. And I feel like that's a great spot to leave this. Like, as I progress with this podcast, I love telling people stories, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's so fun, but I feel like there's going to be another chapter of like, cool, in the moment and like actionable things, right? Because you only have so much time in an episode and people's commutes are only so long, no matter the traffic.
LA, you got a couple hours.
Yeah. This is a good LA one. Yeah. Maybe you made it to work by now.
I don't know.
But I feel like that'd be a lot of fun to even come back to it with you and talk about some more of that like hands-on practical things that you've done.
I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love it.
And like, dude, thank you for all of this too. And listeners, please let us know too. Like if there's parts that you want Danny to talk more about or what you loved, like I'm always trying to work harder on this to give people more of the stuff that they want to hear.
Sure.
But at least on my
like,
side.
I think it's like, while like the stories and everything like that is cool, like you're doing like a, like I would have loved something like this when I was like 20.
Yeah.
To be like, I want to do this, but I don't have any, and not saying that like by listening to this podcast, all of a sudden like everyone's going to be super successful that wants to like go into music or whatever. Like I get it. But just to have, I think some sort of idea that this dude ended up okay.
Yeah.
And like came up from like the van life and now like has this whole separate thing that it evolved to. It's like, I can do something like
just
that.
To see it.
Yeah.
If he can do it, I can do it too. Like to see those examples. That's exactly it, dude. And I also try to think about like, for me right now, I'm a little bit obsessed with like I would love to talk to you just about property management and all of that. But I think that thinking back to the younger version of myself, I want to hear those stories on tour. And I want to hear the like, oh my God, I made it to a bus. Cause like, that's the magic. So I try to balance those two. And I'm still trying to figure that out. But I had a feeling about you and it was so dead on. It was such a good story. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yes.